everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talk the Talk. I'm Desh Pillay Bechan, and I'm your host for today. So, Mikel Mabasa is a transport economist by training and currently serves as a council member of the International Organization of Motor Vehicle Manufacturers. He is also the chairman of the Automotive Industry Exports Council and a non-executive director at the South African United Business Confederation. As an aviation enthusiast, Mikel previously chaired the Air Services Licensing Council, a body that regulates access to the domestic air services market based on airlines' ability to operate safe, secure, and reliable air services. He also served as the chairman of the Board of Air Traffic Navigation Service and was a member of the International Air Services Council. Gosh, I know that's a mouthful. I'm going to go on though. Mikel has an extensive private sector exposure and has held various executive, management, and advisory roles at blue chip companies, and really there's just too much more to mention. I could even go into his academic achievements, but really, like I said, I think I'm just going to have it up on my caption. He also served as a non-executive director of numerous bodies such as the Industry Association for Responsible Alcohol Use, the Tobacco Institute of South Africa, and the Vusi Mahasela Music Development Foundation. He also has extensive track record of success in government policy formulation, having worked in senior government roles as spokesperson in the Ministry of Transport and served as a director in the Gauteng provincial government. Now, I could get stuck into, like I said earlier, on Mikel's academic qualifications at universities and institutions that I cannot even count on my one hand. However, the reason I've personally invited Mikel onto our platform is because of his position as Chief Executive Officer of NAAMSA. I believe that his powerful voice will certainly and positively impact many women watching this interview. So without further ado, let's welcome Mikel Mabasa, the CEO of NAAMSA, and this interview is proudly brought to you by Sariti Solutions. Hello, Mikel.
Desh, good to see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Do you know when people sit here, be it CEOs, MDs, sales executives across the spectrum, we have people sitting here, they're normally nervous. Today, I'm nervous. I'm not used to this, okay?
So we've swapped the roles now.
Yes, we have. And you are a journalist, so it's not very often, especially in our trade, that I get to interview a journalist. So I'm very, very humbled. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So, Mikel, I think we need to achieve our goal in this short few minutes that we're going to try and be impactful towards the females in the motoring trade.
Yeah.
So I'm going to first start off by introducing you, which I have early on, to our viewers, but also I'd like you to tell our viewers more about yourself.
Well, I think you've done a very good job when you introduced me earlier on. Like you said, I mean, look, I'm currently the head of NAAMSA, which is the Automotive Business Council. We represent in South Africa 48 brands, many of whom are obviously original equipment manufacturers. South Africa is very fortunate in a sense that we have global brands that are very supportive to the South African economy. And we are also very proud that all the brands that we have on our roads are also members of NAAMSA. So we don't have a brand that is currently on South African roads that is not an affiliate or a member of NAAMSA. Last year we also took a decision to obviously invite other companies and partners to come and join us, particularly because we are, as you know, the automotive industry is changing, and it's changing very, very fast. And we believe very strongly that the change is actually going to be more catalytic in the next 10 years than it has in the last 100 years. So you're going to see a lot of changes in this industry in the next 10 years, and that's why we are partnering with a number of other companies to really help us to drive the direction that we want to see. So I've been in the automotive industry now for more than 4 years. My background obviously has always been in the aviation industry. So, I've worked quite extensively in that particular space for the longest time. And very happy that now I'm in the automotive industry, and I'm hoping that I can be able to make a contribution to the very important agenda that we have as a country.
I think you already are. I really do pick and choose the people. We have a limited amount of time to do this, and I really do choose the people that I know are passionate about seeing us move and to a positive space and to this upward trajectory that we want to see for ourselves. But tell us more about the history of NAAMSA. I'm actually particularly interested in finding out about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So NAAMSA, it's a very, very old organization. We were established in 1935. When we were established, it was obviously an association that was representing only the manufacturers, the companies that are manufacturing vehicles in South Africa.
Right.
As you may be aware, we've got 7 companies that are manufacturing cars in South Africa. In Gauteng, we've got Ford Motor Company, we've got BMW, and we have Nissan. In KZN, we've got Toyota, and then in the Eastern Cape, we have VWSA, we've got Mercedes-Benz, and we also have Isuzu. And then we've got a number of other manufacturers who are manufacturing vehicles, particularly in the heavy commercial vehicle space. This is obviously buses and trucks, and then we've got a lot of them that have a physical presence in South Africa. So we then took a decision that, in order for us to be able to have a one voice for the automotive industry, it was not going to be sustainable to continue to represent only the 7 local manufacturers. We expanded our base. We then invited retailers because we've got companies that are bringing or importing cars into South Africa, but those vehicles are not necessarily manufactured here.
Right.
And we then said all those companies must come together, they must also join NAAMSA, and we're very, very pleased that many of them, in fact all of them, were actually waiting for that opportunity to be able to come through and become members of NAAMSA. And as a sector, we obviously have become a very, very solidified, very big voice in the economic life of the country. We're currently contributing more than 4% to the South African gross domestic product. And obviously COVID-19 has had a huge impact in the last 2.5 years because our contribution was above 7%.
I remember that, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So
this is the first time I'm hearing those stats.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So we continue to obviously resiliently make a very serious contribution to the South African economy as much as possible. So NAAMSA is actually the centerpiece and the center voice of the industry, and we work very closely with government and other social partners to be able to make sure that we advance the interests of the automotive industry in South Africa.
I think we've discussed a bit. My next question was going to be, what's your strategy? I think you've already combined that into your last question, but do you believe that we will emerge triumphant at the end of this very dark period of COVID?
Well, absolutely. So, it's interesting that you've asked what is our strategy. We've summarized our strategy, and we actually have a name for the NAAMSA strategy. So the NAAMSA strategy is about reimagining the future together. As I indicated earlier on, the future of the automotive industry is going to change faster in the next 10 years than it has in the last 100 years. And we cannot do what we need to do. Everybody today is talking about electric vehicles.
Yes.
We're talking about autonomous driving. We're talking about e-mobility and shared mobility and so on and so forth. All these new concepts and things that we're doing, we cannot do them on our own as the industry, but we obviously need some very, very firm partnership. And our strategy is very, very firm to say that we are obviously going to partner with different stakeholders. We want to increase South Africa's ability to can be able to produce more vehicles. Currently, we are producing around 500, 600,000 units every year. We want to be able to increase that number to around 1.4 million vehicles, at least by 2035. And in order for us to be able to get there, we need as much support from other partners as much as possible. I mean, if you take, for an example, the production of components, vehicle components in South Africa, currently 39% of the components that we're using in the manufacturing process of our cars are manufactured locally here in South Africa. We're importing the other 61%. Where we want to be able to get to a place where we actually flip that threshold around, where more than 60% is actually components that we can be able to manufacture in South Africa, so that we can also be able to contribute meaningfully towards creation of jobs, because young people are hungry for new opportunities, and we believe very strongly that the automotive industry can play a very, very big role in that particular space.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the transformation taking place in the motoring trade? You talked about the EVs. I mean, it's exciting times. And I mean, as you said, the transformation we're going to see in the next 10 years is nothing compared to the past 100 years.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about this?
Well, absolutely. So, and for us, transformation is a very exciting concept, because it's not just about your traditional South African definition of transformation.
Right.
Because a lot of us in South Africa, when we speak about transformation, we see black and white.
Right.
And so on. So
and gender.
And so on. So our transformation is actually an expanded definition. Yes, black and white is important. Yes, gender transformation is important. But the transformation of the industry from a substantive point of view is that in the next 10 years, you're going to see a completely different industry, not just only in South Africa, but around the globe.
Globally,
because that's where this industry is moving. I've got an 8-year-old son, and I tell him that I'm very excited to be working in the automotive industry today, because we're going to be saying to our grandchildren and his children that we actually were the catalysts for this particular very important transformation journey that we find ourselves in. And of course, obviously, transformation, from a South African context in terms of, trying to correct the imbalances of the past is also absolutely very important for us. As you know, the automotive industry traditionally has mainly been seen as very untransformed, and we have worked very, very hard in the last 3 years to be able to get to a place where we are able to say to South Africans, we are actually moving in the right direction. Right. When I joined NAAMSA 3 years ago, we only had 2 black CEOs within the NAAMSA family. Currently, we've got more than 13 black CEOs within the NAAMSA family, and that number is obviously growing. So we are very excited that we are beginning to engage, we are beginning to see some very progressive steps that the industry is taking. We're also seeing women also coming into the industry, because traditionally it has always been seen as a male-dominated industry, and to a large extent it's still seen, and it's still a male-dominated industry. But if you go to the shop floor, whether you go to any of our plants, in the manufacturing shop floor, we are beginning to see a lot of women coming in, and also in our retail space. You go to the dealership, we are beginning to see a lot of women coming in, but it's not enough. I think we have an opportunity to be able to accelerate that even more, so that we can be able to really attract more and more women to come into the place.
We have amazing women in our network, the likes of Yandiswa from Ford Company. She's heading Woman of Ford. She's been one of our winners for the Motoring Woman of the Year Awards, and she's an engineer, working in a predominantly male space, but making immeasurable strides in terms of successfully reaching her goals. And we need that in after sales. Those are where the numbers are at. We need to educate, empower, uplift, and spread the knowledge. and allow our people or our ladies to know that there's space for them here.
Absolutely.
There is. Why do you believe, though, a movement like this specifically can accelerate this progression in terms of transformation for women in the motoring space?
Well, look, it's obviously something that we have no option but to do, something that we have no option but to support, and to also make sure that it thrives. I mean, and I'm going to give you very practical examples. So we've now entered into an MOU with some of the universities in the country, and we are going to be introducing, for an example, BA degrees in some of our universities, because remember, many of our universities today, they are still teaching the old curriculum,
right.
And the industry is now changing. The industry is moving into a different place,
right.
And we are now engaging them differently to say, all our, mechanical engineering courses that we have, electrical engineering courses that we've got, and many other offerings we have, whether it's at university level or at TVET colleges level, we need to be able to transform as quickly as possible. And we are also challenging them that we need to see at least 60% of the intake of students that are coming into those universities being young girls. Because it is there where we are going to be able to start feeding the pipeline. Because currently we have these positions in the market, and then you ask the question, but where are women? The answer you get more often than not is that we cannot find them. So we have to deliberately create a platform where we do not create excuses that we cannot find. So we must create so that people can be able to find.
Absolutely, and that's been my, for this year alone, I've done 11 workshops countrywide, Cape Town, Durban, major cities. And so I'm not in competition with NAAMSA, but I'm just one step ahead of you.
Fantastic.
We have gone into the schools, so the dealerships that we deal with in our network have invited girls from school, standard 8, standard 9, which is grade 10, 11 and 12, and matric, and we're now educating them about the opportunities that the motoring world can present to them. So when they do get to university level, where you are at the moment, they already have an idea of what to study towards, and so I guess we are kind of working together with each other on this, and it's been great. Like I said, 11, this is next month we are in Klerksdorp, will be our 12th. We're doing 3 in the month of August, which is Women's Month, and I think if we work together at this in terms of pushing education, we will reach that goal.
Absolutely, and I think we should look at it as a pipeline.
Yeah.
So the work that you've done in terms of stimulating interest and energizing young girls, to get involved, it's a pipeline that will feed what we are also trying to do. And I think it's absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. Marsha Mayaba, who is she's one of my ambassadors, she and I had this conversation 7 years ago, that this is what she was still at an Isuzu. Hi Marsha, Isuzu dealership, and I went to her and I said, this is what I'd like to do, and it took about 3 or 4 years for me, to get to this point, and we've been making strides in that field as well in the past 3 years.
Fantastic.
So that's been great. How do you feel though about the Motoring Woman of the Year Awards, where we are recognizing women that are contributing towards the trade? Last year we had amazing women. We literally are recognizing women across the spectrum. There's 10 different categories, so it's not just the DPs and the CEOs and the managers, but we're looking at the ladies in the wash bays, the ladies that really make a difference at retail level. How do you feel about this movement?
Well, look, I think the movement is absolutely very catalytic and absolutely transformational, because we do not celebrate excellence enough. And I think there are a number of pockets of excellence, particularly the excellence that is spearheaded and driven by women in South Africa. And I think we need to celebrate that more. Currently, we've been very hesitant in acknowledging, in also appreciating the contribution that women are making in the automotive industry. And I think there are many unsung heroes. And I think to your point, we should obviously move away, not only to focus on those who are in senior positions, but certainly to be able to say, how do we bring in those within the ranks, to be able to also celebrate them. And I also would like to see a situation where we even go into the entire value chain, because the automotive industry is a very, very wide spectrum. We've got women who are doing some amazing work in our component manufacturing firms. There are a lot of firms in South Africa that are manufacturing components. Take for an example our catalytic converters. It's one of our biggest export, as a country. And there are women in that particular space that are doing fantastic work. And also in the after sales, there are women that are currently owning paint shops. There are women who are owning workshops, who are doing amazing work. And I think, the time for us to be able to pause and say, thank you for the contribution that you're making. And also not just thank them, but also support them. So that we can really be able to put, systems in place to really be able to make sure that we're able to contribute. In fact, about 3 weeks ago, I met with an organization called Wakona, which is a group of women who have interest in the automotive industry and many other sectors. And we have agreed that we're going to be partnering with them very directly, so that we can really be able to make sure that they also assist us to identify women that we can celebrate and women that we can be able to support.
Love it. Absolutely love that. Well, we have at least, I would say, 30,000 followers on this platform alone, which is Facebook. But 25,000 of these followers are women from the motoring trade. Is there anything that you would like to say to them in terms of, you have passed on your gratitude, but in terms of their contribution to us as a community in automotive South Africa? Yeah,
absolutely. So I think the more than 30,000 followers, I'm sure that they are not following because they have nothing to do.
I hope not.
I think they are following you and they are interested in the work that you do because they themselves also have interest in the automotive industry. And my word of encouragement to them, as the automotive industry, we've established what we call the Automotive Industry Transformation Fund, which is going to be a platform that is going to really assist, in supporting aspiring young girls and young women who have business ideas that can be able to add value to the automotive industry. So, my message to them, Desh, is that they must go out there, put those business plans together, and they must come and talk to us, particularly within the Automotive Transformation Fund, so that we can see how we can be able to support as many of our women as much as possible. Not only owning dealerships, because I know a lot of people, when they see an opportunity within the automotive industry, their aspiration is to become a dealership owner. There are many opportunities within the automotive industry, and we are challenging them to be the ones who are going to raise their hands and say, I want to play, and how can the industry support me to be able to participate actively?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the key things that I bring out in these sessions, is that if you want it, you need to go and get it. You cannot have a sense of entitlement and believe that this belongs to you or the rights belong to you. You need to be ambitious enough to go forward and make that first move. And trust me, this for me is validation that a man like Mikel Mabasa, who is, the industry is facing dire challenges right now.
There's a Zulu saying in our township that says, so, which means, loosely translated, how are you going to achieve it if you are sitting at your corner?
Absolutely.
So you need to come into the mainstream so that we can be able to help each other.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important, having said that you need to understand that if we take that one step forward or one step towards the assistance we need, there's men like this that will take 10 steps towards us.
Absolutely.
And this is validation that's happened. As I said, NAAMSA must be facing a lot of challenges right now in terms of the COVID, the floods, and everything that we as a community, or the motoring automotive community, are facing, which has been a tough 2 years. Yet he is here, and we have CEOs that sit here with me and MDs that are saying to us women of the trade, we are here to facilitate. Absolutely. We are here to help you. We are here to encourage, uplift, and empower everything that you as women want to achieve in this trade. And I think that is ultimately what it is that I try to achieve with this. Michael, is there any words of advice that you'd like to put forward to young girls that wants to join our trade?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the automotive industry is such an amazing industry. And I think all of us are aware that in the past, a lot of people never had an opportunity to participate actively in the automotive industry. And I think those barriers are now being broken down. And I think the time for women to come to the fore, is now. I always say, when you go to our dealerships today, 10 years ago when you went to a dealership, you'd find a man wearing a blue overall and with oil and diesel and all these lubricants in their nail fingers. Today, when you walk into a dealership, you actually find people with white coats. We're actually employing more technicians in our dealerships than we actually employ mechanics, because our vehicles have become computers on wheels.
Yes.
And I think this is an area where women with their beautiful nails can be able to come and participate very, very actively and help us to grow this industry and make sure that we're able to also kill the stigma that this industry is a male-dominated industry. I think there are fantastic opportunities, and I would like to challenge all our women to raise their hands and obviously come through so that we can be able to see how we can support them.
Because we have what it takes.
Absolutely.
We absolutely have what it takes. And I just like to say on that note that everything you've ever dreamed of is on the other side of fear. There is no need to fear. Michael Mabasa, thank you so much for having come all this way and making the attempt to prove to us that you are there, as I said earlier on, you as a male figure. I've had so many men in this industry that have really been catalysts for this change and transformation, and you're one of them. Thank you for joining our network.
Thank you very much for having me, Desh.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Viewers, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, commenting, and sharing our interviews and our content. Our non-profit company is the Motoring Woman of the Year Awards, which is powered by MFC and Evo by Nedbank, and the Talk Studios powered by Sariti Solutions and Evo by Nedbank are aimed at recognizing and celebrating the women of motoring South Africa. We are not just telling stories, we are changing lives. Together we aim to empower and uplift the women of our trade. For those of you that are searching for your new ride, please visit www.auto.evo.africa. We have thousands of vehicles on sale for you to choose from, and we only advertise on behalf of reliable and trustworthy MFC accredited dealerships. This car listing portal is incredibly user-friendly, and you can also find vehicle reviews and car maintenance tips and advice, all courtesy of Talk the Talk Studios. Ladies, I'd just like to end this interview, this very special interview, on this note, and say to you both, actually, ladies and gents, we urge you to use our platforms and become a catalyst for change by being a designer of a generative question that shifts others' perspective to your possibility. The question must speak into a person's or a group of people's listening, such that a conversation occurs that creates new possibilities for your idea. Viewers, change has never been more prevalent or relevant. We are all championing for change in terms of equality, and seemingly at any cost, it seems. Entire industries are being disrupted and transformed for inclusion, which inevitably will involve more women in our economic demographics, which can only result in success. It's important for us to all be a part of this conversation, uplift, educate, and empower our fellow women to reach for their dreams. And so with that, I'd like to remind you that the question isn't who's going to let me. It must always be who's going to stop me.